I guess I feel like talking, but I do a lot of recordings like this in groups. It's just what I do. I don't know if you've noticed my other ones before that I've done in this group, but I just sometimes I just like to talk rather than. I know some people are really into typing. So I've got like a very I don't know what word to use. A very compelling or strong theory that. What I want to say is that I strongly believe in this theory. It's like I'm quite passionate about this theory, and I would debate it and argue it with any experts you've got out there, because I don't really think that there are any experts when it comes to the experiential side of it. We've only got archaeologists. Now, I've seen quite a few videos and discussions about these type of sites, and mainly they are talking about the ones in the south of England, the Cotswold 7 group ones. Now, I know this Irene's sorry. Oh yeah, Irene's just put these cool ones in the north of Scotland. I think there's one called I forgot. It's called something like it's like a cute name. It's called something Stumpy or Stompy or something. That one that's like one solid. The one in Scotland that I know of is like a kind of like solid piece of rock that's carved out on the inside of it near the coast somewhere. It's got like a really kind of like homely name, like Stumpy something or Stompy something, but I can't remember. But it makes me think of Nicola Sturgeon anyway when you say it. Put it that way. So like these ones, they're really interesting actually. If you notice the one at the top, it's got like the entrances are like fitting in sideways as opposed to the front, which is like, they're a lot more similar to Bella Snap. The one at the top is like extremely similar to the layout of Bella Snap, which is also kind of similar to this one. Now, what I just wanted to brief you with what the archaeologists say. The archaeologists say that these structures are for purpose of burials, like tombs, and they claim that, you know, they found remains in them, and they checked what the remains were, and they said that, you know, like something to do with, like, you know, the deceased's, all the females were buried in one side and all the males, or they did genetics on them, right? But I'm not sure how many sites they've done these genetics on and these cremations and burials, if it's just like a handful or whatever. I'm not a great fan of this whole cremation theory. Even though they found cremated remains in some of these sites, I think that they've been attacked, spoiled, or people have just, you know, either, you know, like when they get, because all through history, right, at different stages through history, you can't get 100% accurate dates on everything. And, you know, I strongly believe that, you know, if you are going to, if anything's worth protecting and worth keeping and worth saving, then you're going to protect it and keep it and save it, like any remains or bones or whatever. Because if you cremate it, then there's nothing left to study or protect. If you're going to cremate something, then you might as well like cast it into the river or blow it to the wind, you know, and say, like, you know, dissolve back into the molecules and fabric of existence and fully recycle yourself. There's just, it doesn't make any sense to me logically to protect ashes. Because if you go to the trouble of cremating it, you're wanting to break it back down into molecules and it to basically be recycled back into, you know, the fabric of, you know, the universe and so forth. So, and to be honest, with ayahuasca, you know, like the South American drink, which I can like give evidence. I can give like experiential evidence of it because I've had it. I'm not just like messing around with it a little bit. I've had like like full. I've had like maximum strength. So I mean, you literally do. The thing is with that, you do feel like you are dissolving into molecules, basically. I mean, you can see many other people expressing that and communicating that experience. Like, for example, in that Sir Ridley Scott's Prometheus, when the architect drinks the drink and then, dissolves into molecules. That is it, basically. It's an artistic representation of it. Now, if you experience that and feel that dissolving, then maybe you might think that, we'll kind of like cremate people back into dust. But if you're going to do that, then you would definitely be a believer in like scattering the ashes, like, like blowing them into the river or into the wind or into the earth. Because there just wouldn't be any. If you were a practitioner of that religion and had that experience, through sacrament, then you believe in everything going back to the earth, and everything kind of like, Now, I just can't see, right, in my opinion, experientially, religiously, through the use of these actual things, not some archaeologist who spends a lot of time digging up bits and bats of bones and tools. Some archaeologists have the religious experience, others don't. Some are interested in, psychedelics and mushrooms, others aren't. Richard Dawkins, for example, was meant to have been an expert in religion and all this, but, he confessed that he'd never had a psychoactive experience before ever. So you can't really, if you haven't had the experience, then, I mean, you can, I don't dispute people having the right to discuss the subject. Everyone's got a right and an opinion, and everyone's got a right to discuss it, but really, you're not qualified to comment on it. You can have the most experienced and well-renowned archaeologist in the world, but if they haven't had the religious experience, and they don't know what it's like, they can have dug up, a million bits of arrowheads or whatever and not be any the wiser about any of the religious practices of the people who built the monuments, right? You've got to have the religious experience in order to know what you're talking about. So that is why maybe they had different phases and stages in their beliefs in the religion over the, X thousands of years through transitional changes or whatever. So when it comes to protecting and burying, I mean, we know that in the east of England, at least some of the Viking burials even, but also some of the ancient Celtic ones and before, I mean, there are burials where they're actually burying like even the chariot with the horses, pulling the chariot and the warrior on the chariot, all completely and totally preserved, with all the things, right? Now, my opinion is that, some of these, the shapes of some of these sites definitely are synonymous or similar with the shapes in some of the Egyptian ones, particularly the Sphinx with the in between the feet of the Sphinx, which a lot of people can see the relationship between that through observations. But so with the like Egyptian culture, they're definitely going out of their way to preserve the remains as much as they can, even though they like, push articles up their nose and chop their brains out, right? They're going to great lengths to maximum preservation in the mummification, right? Now, we don't have mummification here, but they are trying to protect it. So, like, on that basis of if it's worth protecting, then, you might as well make as good job of it as you can. I am all for this preservation of the bones and protection of the bones if they're going to be contained within these sites. Now, we know that at least the warriors were buried complete and with all their things. And these people weren't stupid. According to Howard Crowhurst, with the mathematics of the people who built Stonehenge, they were highly advanced mathematicians thousands of years before the ancient Greeks. They just didn't write it down on paper, right? So they weren't retarded by any means, and they understood a lot of deep thinking and understanding of nature, the earth, the size of the planet, and other complicated calculations, both spiritual and scientific, right? And good observational skills of nature around them and how the world works. Now, my opinion is that, so when people are dead and people die, they're going over to the other side, right? And they're not coming back because they're dead, right? So when you get a full, complete burial, which is completely sealed with earth and there's no entrance or portal, they've gone to the other side and they're not coming back because there's no door there, right? Now, a lot of the warriors in the chariots and so forth have burials like that. The warriors have these burials. There's no portal. There's no entrance. You're not going to they're not going to the other side to the world of the dead or the spirits and then coming back out again, right? Now, with the druids or the spiritual people, or whatever lineage you want to trace back to the prehistoric people to when we get to the Celtic, and some people will argue that they're completely different and not related. Others will argue that it's like a long lineage and transitional change in some way, how we kind of like have the church now. It's got connections to it, to even, the pre-conquest religion. Some people indicate quite a lot of similarities, at least. So with all the sites that have got entrances, portals, chambers, which are interactive, some even label them on the status of temples, right? So they're still associated with remains. Now, there's one important thing that you need to do, which we can't always do accurately and be 100% certain through merely archaeology, because of the dating is not always 100% correct. And that is separating tomb raiding, vandalism, or enemies destroying, breaking, or conquering things, or purposely massacring them and spoiling them. And then if they do that in widespread, like maybe some Roman army who had a major objective of wiping out an entire religion and every evidence of it and killing all the leaders as much as possible, and writing down that they are going to destroy all their sacred groves, that could have something to do with the fact that a lot of the stuff spoiled, even if you don't classify it chemically and biologically in your carbon dating with that exact time or period, whether it's before, during, or after, or Vikings or whoever, or some other people. There's that as well to try and separate from it. Now, this is my own opinion, right? There's something in the Christian religion of this basis of relics, but they're not just relics, they're relics of saints or even sacred people or ancestors or important people, but not warriors who have died in battle, particularly spiritual people or spiritual persons or leaders. Now, the thing with relics is that they save them, they keep them, like, bones, relics of saints, and that is associated with a spiritual religion and practice. and, you know, the Pope or bishops and people like that honour and venerate them, even in the Christian religion, right? So that is a practice which exists and has come from somewhere and is adopted. Now, my opinion, and this is partly through experiential experience. Neil Oliver just did a video. Now, a lot of people, you know, take Neil Oliver's evidence and testimony quite seriously. Neil Oliver just did a video a couple of days ago or a week ago, and he talks about a ghost in a house of a woman appearing or something, or that whether people actually visually saw it or whether it was just like a feeling of it, right? But the thing is that this apparition or whatever that people had reported, there was someone living alive still who actually reported that they told a story of a person that they knew that it was, who actually even was still alive at the time. So there's some evidence there that it was not necessarily like a person who had died and come back from the dead, but it was more like an impression, an imprint, kind of like an energetic signature left behind at a place, possibly an emotional one, and possibly even could be stored, you know, in objects. Theoretically and scientifically, in the same manner and way as, you know, you would on a piece of C90 cassette tape leave a magnetic impression of a sound and then you can play it back. It's a magnetic print. Now, I'm strongly in favour of this model, basically, you know, and I've kind of experienced similar, but I wouldn't have said like I've seen actual ghost or apparition or anything, but not what you call in clear plane visuals, more like feelings, presences, movements, kind of like that you can kind of see it in your mind's eye, or some sort of, you know, other sensory perception of it, or even a movement or motion. Now, there's another couple of things that are quite important. Some of them are in connection with the use of sacrament, and others aren't. Others are not they don't necessitate the use of sacrament. Now, firstly, my room is like a chamber shape. It's like kind of like a little chapel or church. It's kind of like a rectangle, right? Quite long. And when we first moved here, right, I, you know, asked my parents if I could have this room, you know, for my bedroom, and they said yeah, but it's quite a largish room, and it's kind of got a wooden roof, you know, like a kind of like barny sort of roof. Now, the thing is that when I first set my bed up, right, I kind of put it against one of the side walls. Now, if this picture we're actually looking at now, we actually are looking at this picture of, is it Karrowkeel or whatever, Karrowmore or Karrowkeel or whatever, right? And you've got these side chambers that come in sideways, right? And that is very similar to Bella Snap. Now, in fact, in Bella Snap, you can actually lay down in them, right? A side angle like this, like if you go into it and lay down. Now, the thing is that when I set my bed up like that and slept on it, it just didn't feel right. I didn't feel content. I didn't feel happy. I kind of felt like I just had this feeling that it didn't feel right. That it was going against some energy or against something. Now, I've never been into Feng Shui before. I've never been into dowsing. I've never been into ley lines, but I worked out that, you know, it wasn't going with the energy of the room. and you could just feel it. So from then on, I put my bed at the head of the room, at the end of the room against the wall, right? Kind of like, in a church when you have like the priest at the front, at the front of the congregation. And, I've always felt all right in bed sleeping since. So I know from experience and from feeling it that you've got a energy going through a room or building, and if you can kind of go against it, you can like lay with it or like against it and have it coming through you. Now I haven't I should have been moving my bed all around to different places, but I didn't pursue it any further because it's kind of like I kind of felt like I got it, I've understood it. Now maybe there is some benefit from laying at the sides, maybe it can build up some resistance or